NSSNs for inviting Youth Fight for Jobs today and giving us a speaker, and as well the session that we organised, the workshop around organising migrant and young workers into the trade union movement. But I actually wanted to talk about the situation of austerity, because as long as I've been an adult, the economy has been in crisis. Even though that when I was at school we had EMA, which is now gone, education maintenance allowance, and fees were only £3,000. The rhetoric at school was that if we worked hard, you might have to go to university and get in some debt, but you can get a good job and you'll be all right in the end. But we've got members of Youth Fight for Jobs here today, 16 years old, and they're leaving school in even a different circumstance to me leaving when the economic crisis was started. Because they said to me that the rhetoric in their school now is not that you can succeed, it's not that you can go to university, because the teachers in the schools and the staff at the schools know that you can't afford to go to university. And it's not that you'll be okay. They know that when they're told that when they leave school, they'll get a job on the minimum wage, it'll be a 0 hours contract, and to expect anything more is pie in the sky. They're told that if they're lucky enough to get a job, they'll have to work for £6.50 an hour. And that is if they're lucky, because the other alternative is that every time they send off a job application, they'll be competing with hundreds of other young people also desperate to find work. A couple of months ago, the Ultimate Guide to Life was printed in newspapers up and down the country, and it was a list of 30 things to do in your lifetime with an age attached to each point in your life. And it was a completely unrealistic list of life achievements for austerity Britain and austerity Europe. But luckily someone's fixed it since then, and I wanted to go through some of the originals and the changes that were made to that list. They changed getting your first full-time job at 19 to your first 0 hours contract. They changed being 21 and going on holiday for the first time with your friends to taking a series of unpaid internships. They fixed turning 22, which originally said buying your first car, to moving back in with your parents after university, to losing touch with your friends because of the unsociable and long hours you're forced to work on your 0 hours contract. They changed turning 24 from getting your own place to renting a single room in a shared house with 6 other people. But then at the end of the life, they also changed retiring at 60 to working at B&Q on the minimum wage at 68 because you can't afford to retire. And I think the fixes that were added to that list are completely understandable for many young people in today's society, and definitely more realistic. But even this joke, real version of the Ultimate Guide to Life was released in May this year. How worse is that going to get when the Tories' new budget is passed on the 8th of July, with all the added attacks that are coming towards young people and workers in this country? Is it any shock that there was thousands on the streets of Leeds on the day of the Queen's speech, and the same in Bristol? Is it any shock that there were hundreds of young people protesting against the academisation of their schools in Lewisham that have already been mentioned this morning? And is it any wonder that on the 20th, on the People's Assembly demo, young students had genuinely gone round their friends and rallied them up, and come 16-year-olds, groups of friends, had organised for them to come, independently of their parents, to come on that demonstration to show their opposition to austerity. And I think that is what we have to remember is going to be what's happening over the next few weeks and months and years as we fight austerity. Young people will not sit still in this important time of struggle against the Tories. But we need the organisations and the trade unions to play their role in encouraging those young people to organise. Imagine how bad even the dire situation is going to get when the attacks on benefits to under 21s come through, Half of homeless people seeking help already are under 25. The attacks that have already happened have obviously played their role in destroying the lives of many young people. And the trade unions have a responsibility to lead struggles to not only defend the jobs that already exist for themselves, but to defend those jobs and services for the next generation as well. We won't sit by and watch these attacks take place. That's why we're going to be protesting on the 8th of July at 5 o'clock outside Downing Street. So people should come to that. Obviously, I've got to plug that, but it's a national day of action. If there isn't a protest happening in your area, we've got leaflets at the back. You can come and take them. You can organise your own protest and be part of a day of action against the Tories. Many of the young people today on 0 hours contracts, homeless, made to work for their benefits, weren't 18 when the crisis hit. So it's not just a slogan or rhetoric when we say we're being made to pay for a crisis that we didn't cause. It definitely wasn't us, and it wasn't workers with their low standards of living already that caused the crisis. It was the banks and big business. But we're being made to pay for it by being a generation of young people worse off than their parents. And so we're not just going to protest for one day against the Tories on the 8th of July. We plan to return to Parliament Square at the weekend on the Saturday and build a tent city to highlight the continued struggle, especially in London, for housing, for decent jobs, against 0 hours contracts. We're going to occupy against austerity and show this government that we're not just going to go away and stop organising. So if you can help us build a movement that can take on the Tories, then get involved in the protests that are coming up. Thank you very much.